Welcome back. It's another update. This will be for continuation of update 1 for those who were latecomers, and also the update 2 for everybody that I could find. Hopefully I got everyone. If I didn't, please let me know. So let's get started. I thought this time I put it on survival. I realized that last time I had it on peaceful and all that lightning and everything was going on, and I'm like, oh yeah, we'll see some horsemen. And then I realized later, I was like, oh no, we won't see any horsemen. So we'll just watch some of the villagers' antics. I don't know if anybody noticed last time, a couple of villagers were over here throwing potatoes at each other. So I'm going to go this way in case we do get some more rain, or maybe see some action in the swamp in the background. So, okay. So, continuation of update 1. Oh, which reminds me, you might want to grab a drink, some Chex Mix or popcorn, because I think this is going to be a long update. Okay, so episode 1 for Lorelei. She headed straight to the village, checks a few villagers for trades, discovers unknowingly that there are a lot of dimwits in these villages. She raids the blacksmith and goes over to the other village to see if they have a crafting table, discovers the exposed dungeon, and has the sense to dig far enough down to raid the chests, which I did not. I remember I dug 1 or 2 layers or didn't see anything, and forgot that the wall that was exposed was only like 1 block, and of course I think they're like 5 blocks high or something. So I'm not going to tell you what she found in the chest. You're going to have to go see her episode to find out what she found. And I've noticed it looks like there's one item in the chest that changes for every person, if I remember correctly. It's not always the same thing. She makes an iron pickaxe at the library and heads up immediately, heads up to the top of a dune and spots one of the trees immediately and heads that way. She decides to set up camp there and digs in, looking for coal and iron. She comes across a cave with sounds of rattly bones, and while collecting some precariously placed coal, she gets sniped by one of the skeletons. Luckily they had been down there for a while and their aim was a bit rusty. Just a flesh wound, so that was good for her. She moved on to collect cobble and discussed possibly grabbing some quartz and for daylight sensors. She will be the first to get to the nether if she does that quickly. She makes a ton of cobble walls, and by morning she heads up, sword in hand, and bids everyone a good day. And then episode 1 for DJ Paul. After a couple of wrong turns, he spots the villages and heads towards them, and then he keeps running past them, and I'm like, where are you going? So he keeps running past them. Turns out he was just looking for one of the trees. He makes it to the tree, hungry and dehydrated from his long trek. He gathers up his 3 saplings and heads back to the village. By now he has only 3 drumsticks left. He makes it and makes some bread to eat. He borrows some of the cornerstone from the church and makes a pickaxe and a shovel, and all the better to make a trench with, which he does. At nightfall, he borrows some of the other cornerstone of the church to make a sword, and proceeds to defend the villagers from creepers and husks while continuing to work on his trench. A skeleton jumps him at 1421, and you need to go see the mayhem that ensues after that. Congratulations on getting 1,000 subs. Very good, DJ Paul. So yes, go see his first episode. I think it's called Take 1, something like that, at the 14-minute mark. It's pretty funny after that. Okay, then episode 1 for Baker Bell. Baker Bell starts off looking for the villages, but ends up finding the 2 trees instead. She collects an apple and 4 saplings. She heads back to find the villages, collecting sticks and dirt, discussing possibly connecting the villages together. Raids the blacksmith, collects sand to block up the houses, realizing she has no coal, and then she goes off in search of a cave with exposed coal, but ends up finding the temple instead. Good job, Baker Bell. You have to see 11.42, so it's the 11-minute mark, to find out what she had in those chests. Stay tuned. Oh, she stays in the temple and digs to find resources, finds a big cave with no coal, just a little skeleton and some iron, heads in a different direction, but decides to make charcoal instead and heads back to the big cave to get the iron and look around more for some coal, which she does find, along with a huggable creeper at the 15.52 mark, and go see, let's see, go pick, so she picks at it and then gets a stack of iron, and then she ended her day there. So then DJ Paul, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but DJ Paul goes for take 2 on his day 1. So he headed to the village, grabbed some carrots, then ran past the second village in search of the tree. He made great time and had collected the wood, 2 saplings, and an apple before noon. Headed back to the villages, collecting cactus and sticks along the way, made a cactus wall along 2 sides of the village by dusk. He rushes over to the library to make a pickaxe and a shovel with the few church blocks again, then digs under the library and surprisingly finds iron but no coal. He heads back up shortly after midnight to find Papa and Baby Husk standing at his door at the 16-minute mark. You have to go see what happens. It will have you cringing. Yes, it will. I was sitting there going, no! It's like when you watch the scary movies and you're like, don't go in the basement! It's one of those moments. So that's around the 16-minute mark. Okay, so that was DJ Paul's second attempt. Then we have episode 1 for Honeysuckle, and happy birthday, Honeysuckle. August is also Honeysuckle's birthday month. Starts off in search of trees, collects sticks, finds the 2 trees, and gets 8 saplings and 1 apple. I think that's the most saplings out of all of the 2 trees that anybody has gotten from those 2 trees. 8 saplings. Can you believe it? Heads back to the village, raids the blacksmith, grabs some sandwich makings, bread and potatoes, heads over to the other village, spots the dungeon and raids it, gets to village 2, collects food, places some sand in front of the doors, but decides to put some distance between her and the villagers. Becoming dusk around that time, she looks for a quiet spot by the river to dig down for the night, finding a good amount of iron and coal with her lucky pickaxe until morning. So those were our latecomers for episode 1. Very good job, everybody. So then we have episode 2. Okay. We start off with Dark Age Man. Dark Age Man started by looking for resources. He found a cave and hit the jackpot with a bit of gold protected by a skelly. He makes a murder hole and takes care of the skelly, cooks up the iron he found last time, runs down a ways lighting things up, and hits the 777 when he runs across more gold and iron and a shallow ravine with a witch in it. He decides the witch might be a little more trouble than he wished for and goes back to collect up all the iron and gold, makes a full set of armor with shield and iron sword, heads down to level 10 to see what is around resource-wise, picks up some more iron, coal, and redstone, said goodbye, and plans to go topside to work on a tree farm for episode 3. Good job with that, finding all that stuff, man. It was just... Okay, episode 2 for Dragon Feathers. Okay, so she pops out of her hiding hole and dashes past a couple of creepers and straight to the village, where she throws down some torches and starts constructing the wall. She tests out her ninja parkour skills, jumping from a rooftop to the church balcony, and discovers she has no parkour skills. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't resist that one. I had to poke you a little bit on your parkour skills. She wrangled some stubborn villagers inside the town boundaries, and at dusk she headed out to another tree, discussing her plan for working on the village by day and head out for trees at night and coal. She still hasn't found any coal. The second tree was quite stingy and only gave her one sapling. She sacrificed some of her precious logs to make her charcoal. What does that say? Oh, she dug down some more and found a cave with an irate spider, which she blocks off, and then iron, which she blocks off. Oh, an irate spider and iron, but still no coal. Out to 3. I don't know what I meant by out to 3. I guess that was the end of the episode. So yes, she did pretty good, except she still doesn't have any coal, but I have faith in her that she will find some by episode 3. Okay, episode 2 for Grandma's Gone Gaming. Make sure I didn't miss something. Unofficial series. Okay, so she makes an axe and, to my horror, heads over to the temple. She only has 2 wobbly hearts, and breaks the chest and hops back out to the daylight, and with her 2 hearts still wibbly wobbly, she heads out into the desert in search of the next tree. I was certain one of those cactuses she kept skimming past was going to take her out. She finally eats a golden apple from the temple and a fishing no, well, she didn't eat the fishing pole, but and a fishing pole. After checking, she must have made a fishing pole. After checking the location of the sun, she tries her hand at fishing. After catching 3 fish, she continues to the next tree, gathers it up, and heads off to the next tree on the list. And by now she is at full health. Night falls, brings out the mob, so she sticks to the river until forced to make a mad dash through the dunes and over perilous cave openings, losing a majority of her hearts along the way. She makes it to the tree with a zombie just steps behind her. She gets rid of him and grabs the tree, heads down the way to a cave opening where she evicts the spider living there and plants a sapling using bone meal to grow a giant tree. Second, third generation type, you know, the kind that I like, that everybody complains about because it takes so long to grab all the wood out of them, but I love those trees. She quickly chops it up and says goodbye. So she made it through her second night. Okay, next we have John Fall 92. Starts off killing a zombie and a husk who are hogging some iron that he wants. He collects the spoils and heads farther into the cave. He performs a very nice 2-1 crit combo on some creepers and a spider with his sword and axe. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. And it's right around the beginning of the video, so you ought to go over and check that out. He keeps finding iron, but just wants some coal. He finds a nice big vein of coal, and while collecting that, confirms that he is in fact going to do the challenge with only the 6 logs that he collected from the first tree. He runs back to the villages, collecting sticks along the way. He lights up the villages with the village with the libraries, and declares the butcher shop as his own, and of course turns it into a bakery because we are all vegetarians here at MHC. He kicks out a zombie living in a cave below the village, does a little terraforming until dusk. He heads back out to the desert and his mine that he had started, finds a cave with lava pools, redstone, and more iron. At the 13-minute mark, he is distracted by the cackle of a nearby witch, and as he is digging around above his head, no less, in gravel. Let's see, almost gets caught in some falling gravel, decides to take her head on, and gets poisoned in the process right down to half a heart, but does get some sugar and a glass bottle out of it. You know what else he gets? At the 15-minute mark? Diamonds. 6 lovely diamonds, and he had his coordinates up, so you can go check that out and find out where those diamonds are. He finishes the episode collecting up the rest of the iron and redstone and coal amid the bubbling lava pools. And after that we have Rabbit Roars. Okay, her villager counter now says no idea, hope they're safe. I don't think that's what it said in the first episode, so that's pretty funny. Still out at her mini base, waiting for trees to grow and gathering resources, cleaning up her inventory, discussing plans to dig a tunnel on the way back to the village. She discovered the lava pool, the one that, well, I haven't found it yet, never mind. The lava pool, but decided to keep going past it and found a nice bit of iron, which is good because she plans to give the villagers iron doors. And by that time it was the end of the episode, so she said goodbye. After that we have TSG Gaming. He kept working on the wall moat, took down a small house near the outskirts of town, and used the parts to upgrade an abandoned house in town. Once nighttime has fallen, he finally checks out the blacksmiths, blocks the entrances, and commences with wall and moat building in the dark, no less. Yeah, no torches. Did a perimeter check around dawn and everything looked fine. Then after that we have Tim Obert. Alright, started his morning with an energetic run with a baby husk and a spider in tow, ran over to the other village, chatted up some dimwits, found his tree has not yet grown, did a trade with the farmer and discovered something is amiss with their pricing system, tried to join a town council meeting going on in the back alley behind the blacksmith. Let's see, and then by sundown he locked up the town. At the 10-minute mark there's a funny moment of watch that first step. Yeah, that was funny. I replayed it like 3 or 4 times because I got a real kick out of it. Comical discussion with a fisherman who had a death wish. Discovered he lost his crafting table, so he went out in the dark looking for it. Took a couple of arrows in the back from a very hyper skelly. Then he was trapped and surrounded, so he hunkered down till morning. And he was in one of the, I think it was the little house that he had been using as his little base, at which point he made a daring rooftop escape, but the skellies were one step ahead of him. He did survive though. So that was Tim Obert's second episode. Okay, then we have Wandering Nerd. Started off with a creeper in the face, but he managed to get around him with some fancy footwork, but forgot the 4th rule, creepers come in pairs, and he lost a few hearts as one of them blew up behind him. Found a loitering husk by the well as he was checking on the villagers and lighting up the houses, planted his saplings and went off to collect more cactus for his walls and to check on the other village. Stopped to raid the dungeon, lit up the second village, discovered that the first step is a doozy, same as Tim, coming out of the butcher's shop. Placed a good portion of cactus fences down, had some very interesting facts about villagers and how to keep them in close quarters, and that was around 11:20 if you want to hear what he was saying about that. Dug for resources, heard a zombie beating on the doors, grabbed his shield and fought off husks, zombies, lots and lots of husks for the night, but by morning he was a few villagers short. Yeah, he lost a few villagers to zombies. Alright, episode 2 for Baker Bell Games. Baker Bell starts off making a full set of armor minus one shoe. Headed off in search of the village. Once there, she blocked the doors, got a villager to go back to church, and guilted another one into going inside the butcher's shop after nightfall. And just in time as the mobs converged all around, she decided to run aimlessly through the desert, dodging mobs left and right. Good thing she is armored up, although she is still missing her one shoe. She eventually ran smack dab into a tree next to a bunny cave. And that is where she ended her episode. Then we have episode 2 for Honeysuckle. Started with making some iron tools, went back down to dig up more iron, passed the lava test with flying colors, finds more iron, heads up, takes everything over to the villages, digs sand, and builds walls into the nighttime. Makes short work of a husk who was chasing a villager, but the villager did get away. But then she heard the terrible pitter-patter of baby husk feet, and alas, some of her villagers were turned. She had no choice but to put them down. Then she made a critical mistake at the 16-minute mark, but came out smelling like a rose as the sun rose. So that, yeah, go check that out. 16-minute mark on Honeysuckle's second episode. Yeah, I was like, no, don't do that. Alright, then episode 2 for Lorelei. Lorelei started off chopping down one of her trees that had grown, grabbing a couple of saplings from it, headed back to the village with 5, count them, 5 stacks of cobble wall. Great job. So she had been, remember, she had been digging up the cobblestone all night. Once at the village, she started throwing down walls and torches, and she got her wall up very quickly despite a stubborn librarian that was giving her some trouble. She had the whole village completely secured shortly after nightfall, allowing I think she's the first one to get her village completely secured with lighting, fencing, walls and all that good stuff. Shortly after nightfall, allowing the villagers the opportunity to enjoy the cool desert breeze while stargazing, amid the sounds of husks wandering the perimeter of the wall. All seemed perfect until the 16-minute mark. That seems to be like the magic number. You have to go over and see what happened, but you'll want to see it. And I guess you probably know by now she has a 3rd episode up, so but yeah, go over and check that out. That's Lorelei's 2nd episode around the 16-minute mark. Then we have episode 2 for Scott Play. Okay, with only 3 drumsticks and fully armored up, he makes his way back to the village, raids the blacksmith and gets the tree planted, chomps on some carrots, and then heads over to the other village to check things out. Discovers the dungeon, raids it, took the horse armor, but left the saddle on the ground. I'm like, because he took the chest, right? And the saddle's just laying there on the ground. I'm like, what are you doing? But let's see, he does go back to the blacksmith to drop off some things, and then when he was doing that, I did notice there's a saddle in the chest, so I can't remember if there was one in the blacksmith chest to begin with, or maybe there were 2 saddles in the dungeon. I can't remember, but so he does have the saddle, although I don't really think we're going to see any horses in this series. Let's see, to drop off some stuff. Okay, he started digging a deep moat using the torch technique until dark. He left the village for the evening and made plans to go to the Nether. He dug down by the little lava grotto, went out to check for bad guys and look for gravel because he realized he didn't have any flint, which he found nearby. He realized he didn't have his crafting table, so he ran back to the village. This is around the 13-minute and 50-second mark. He had a very cool way of counting his mob kills. A very action-packed run back to the village. He is really good at the crit hits, which he is, because once he got back to the village, and he just spent the evening protecting the village from mobs that were over there. If you only watch one episode in this whole month, you have to go see C. Scott Plays second episode, because not only because of that cool little thing he did about counting up kills, but it's just action packed. You're just going, ah. So after that we have Bad Senator. Alright, Bad Senator started with some interesting facts about lighting up the village walkways while gathering food and tossing a lingering husk out of the village. Proceeded to light up the town until nightfall, went back under the butchers to gather more sandstone, and started placing his walls at night while nighttime was. He had a dangerous altercation with a very rude trespasser and his equally rude nephew, but he managed to get to safety just in time, and in the morning he started a tree farm on top of the blacksmiths. So he's going to have an eco-friendly village right there. Okay, and then last but not least, there is Granny's Got Game. So I did a little backtracking looking for pumpkins, those pumpkins that we were talking about. I didn't see them, so I headed back to the village. Ran through the first one and on to the second one. Found the exposed dungeon on the way, dug around a little, but didn't find the chest or the spawner because I didn't have the sense to dig down all the way. I still can't believe I did that. So I ran over to the second village to see if they had a blacksmith, and with the setting I had, what? I don't know what I meant by that. I went over to see if they had a black, okay, with the setting I head off, probably I meant the sun setting, I just didn't write the word sun. I head off to find another tree, but night falls quickly, and with the mobs arriving I dig into a nice section of dirt by the river. I spend a good portion of the night digging out sandstone and cobble, but no coal. Made a window with a cobble wall which lets in quite a bit of light. And it does. You know how I usually put a slab and make the little half window thing? Well, you know, if you put a cobble wall, I think a fence, I don't know if a fence post will let as much light in, and I don't know if it's really letting light in, but it looks like it is. So yeah, so I used a cobble wall in that opening there, and it worked really well. Let's see, then buried slabs, yeah. Just before daybreak I make an underwater exit and head off in the direction of one of the trees that I was trying to track. So okay, so like I said, hopefully I got everybody. So I'm fixing to go ahead and upload this and see if I can't add everybody's little thumbnail and stuff and get it out. It's Saturday. Get it out hopefully earlier than last time. Shortly around noon, I'm hoping, or 12:30. And then I'm going to go review episode 3 so I can get that out before Monday, which is episode 4. So thank you for being patient with me, and apparently we didn't have a whole lot of exciting stuff go on. I didn't really look at the screen, but yeah, well, since it's nighttime, we'll do a firework. Yes, so thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will see you next time. Bye.